Hello, everyone. I'm Captain Laura Einsetler, and we're so excited that you are joining us for our Travel Like a Pro series. We're hosting these free, incredible interviews with professionals in the industry who will be sharing with you tips, tricks, and travel hacks to make your flying and travel a better experience. We're gifting you this knowledge and insight to help empower you so that you can travel with safety, comfort, and ease. Today, we will be discussing fear of flying and how you can get over that guaranteed. Right now, we would love it if you would click the like symbol and share these with friends, coworkers, and family. You'll always be able to watch and share from CaptainLaura.com website under Travel Like a Pro tab. If you have any questions or comments, you can add these to the email, add us at contact us at CaptainLaura.com, or you can also send questions right here for this broadcast. So just a little bit about me. For those of you that aren't familiar, we're getting the engine started right now. So I'm currently a captain for a major airline. And I currently fly as a captain on a Boeing 767, 757, 737, and Airbus A320. Prior to that, I was a captain on a Lockheed L-188, which is a civilian P-3, and also a Convair 580. I flew military contracts and also charters and international cargo. I flew aerobatics in a Kristen Eagle and Pitts S2B, and was an airshow director for an airshow performer. I was a flight instructor teaching all levels of flying. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in Aeronautical Science from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, and also a minor in dispatch. I was also accepted to the Air Force Academy. As a teenager, I worked 3 jobs to pay for my flying lessons. At 15 years old, I soloed on my 16th birthday, and then got my license as a private pilot when I turned 17. I'm a mother of 2 awesome children, a wife to an aeronautical engineer and military man, and an author of 2 books. One, Remove Before Flight, which is for all you air travelers, and also Lost and Found, which we hope to make into a series and or a movie. And I'm also a guest speaker and a national media spokesperson. So today we have with us, we're so excited to have Captain Tom Bunn with us. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Laura. Hi.
So glad that you're here with us. So today we're going to be discussing with you fear of flying, and Captain Tom is the guru in this field. So he first got his psychology degree and then went into the Air Force, and he flew the F-100 and F-105. So for those of you that love fast and vintage aircraft like I do, so I'm so excited to all hear those stories, of course. And he worked also in an accident investigation and helped create safety devices for these aircraft. Of course, he caught a love for racing cars. I think probably a lot of us pilots do too, because of the speed. And he competed in many international and domestic Formula C spec races. Captain Tom then flew for Pan Am, flying the DC-8s, the Boeing 707s, and the 747s, which you can see there. He then eventually joined with United Airlines and flew the 747, 757, and 767. Tom originally worked with Captain Truman Cummings on the first fear of flying courses with Pan Am. Then he developed SOAR in 1982 in order to be the most effective at healing flying fears. He went to graduate school at Fordham University, where he received a master's degree with top honors, and he did several years of postgraduate work with the Gestalt Center in Long Island, New York, the Neuro-Linguistic Programming Institute, and also Masterson Institute as well. He is a licensed therapist in 1990 and authored the book SOAR. I have one right here, The Breakthrough Treatment for Fear of Flying. So you can get your copy too at fearoflying.com, And since then, he's also authored several other books as well, including Panic Free, which we'll show you. There it is. So that's the latest and greatest from Captain Tom. Tom is also a media spokesperson and he's totally the go-to person in this field. For top newspapers, magazines, including Psychology Today, and news television shows about this topic. So Captain Tom is the expert of fear of flying. And for years, I have sent people to Captain Tom's courses because they're so incredibly effective. People that just absolutely will not step anywhere near an airport, let alone an airplane, are healed by Captain Tom's courses. And so you can go to captainlaura.com and you will see there the SOAR fear of flying right there below the Travel Like a Pro series. And you can click directly onto his courses that absolutely are guaranteed to help you regain your power and strength for flying again. I reached out to ask Tom and also his 20-year longtime business partner, who's also a fear of flying therapist, Lisa Hauptner, how exactly this magic works. So Tom, welcome. And we're so happy to have you here. Welcome to the Travel Like a Pro series.
Thank you. And Laura, you know a lot of pilots, and most pilots think if passengers just know how safe it is, that will take care of the problem.
Right.
Well, elevators are safe too, but a lot of people don't like being in elevators because you're not sure if you have absolute control. The door might not open. And if you can't get out when you start getting edgy, you can have a panic attack. Well,
right.
There's hours on an airplane when you can't get out. So people are not just afraid of the plane, they're afraid of crashing themselves. And that's the thing that this program focuses on that other programs don't. How do you train your mind to automatically control those feelings?
That's excellent. And so, we wanted to ask you if you can please tell us about some of the typical things that people are afraid about with flying.
Well, with the airplane, when you look up in the sky, you don't see anything holding it up. It looks like it should fall. So the number one intellectual concern people have is the plane falling out of the sky. The number one and two anxiety problems are turbulence and takeoff. And in a way, it's for the same reason. During turbulence, there's one drop after another, after another, after another. And each one of those drops triggers the release of stress hormones, which means the stress hormones build up and cause you to have rapid breathing and tension in the body and your chest to pound. Those are feelings that if you've ever been in real danger, you have those feelings. So when you have those feelings on the airplane, you think you must be in danger. Now, that's in turbulence. In takeoff, there's one thing after another after another. They're different things. In turbulence, it's the same thing, drop, drop, drop. On takeoff, it's the engines revving up, being pushed back in your seat, bumping down the runway, going into the air, the engines get quieter, and then you have the noise abatement procedure, which is a biggie because at about 1,000 feet, we pull the power back to make less noise. When we do have to bring the nose down, that causes the feeling of the plane. It's kind of like an elevator reaching the 10th floor when you pass the 9th floor. But since you feel this lightheadedness at the same time the engines get quiet, you think, oh my God, the engines have quit, we're falling out of the sky. So those are the tough times for most people.
And then people have told me too about the control aspect. They feel a lack of control.
Well, yeah, if you see, the most basic way we have of controlling our feelings is to control what happens. And if we can't control what happens, we maybe want to avoid that particular activity or be able to get out if something goes wrong. And that is as far as many of us go in terms of emotional regulation. But there is another system that if people have it, they don't know they have it because it works unconsciously. If you don't have it, you don't even know it exists. But it's called the parasympathetic nervous system. Para means against, and parasympathetic means against the sympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system, that's the one that revs you up when you get the stress hormones.
Right.
So when you get revved up, you're supposed to have an app in the brain, some mental processes in the brain that when you start to get revved up by the sympathetic nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system is supposed to come in and calm things down automatically. Now, about 40% of us don't have the software to do that. So when a person who lacks the ability to automatically have their parasympathetic kick in, when you don't have it, When you get a shot of stress hormones, you feel alarmed and you stay alarmed for at least a minute and a half
Oh, is that
until the
right?
stress hormones burn off.
Hmm.
There was a person who did a TED talk saying, she's a neuroscientist. She says, well, look, when you get stressed, don't make a decision for 90 seconds because it could be a bad decision. How are you going to do that as a pilot?
Right. You can't do
It's
that.
not going to work. You've got to have this system that calms you down. And you see about 60% of us, when we get alarmed, the alarm lasts so short a period of time, we didn't even realize we got alarmed. It just grabbed our attention and we deal with the problem.
Yeah.
But for people who don't have that system, they get alarmed and they stay alarmed. And because they stay alarmed, they think there must be something wrong. So one of the things we have to do is give them the ability to have this feeling of alarm immediately calm down and go away.
Right.
We have to teach them how to activate their parasympathetic nervous system, their calming system.
Well, and so is this okay? So, what should people understand if they consider themselves to be fearful flyers then?
Okay, that you're not alone. There's about
Yeah.
40% of us who don't have this mental software to kick in the parasympathetic nervous system. So now what we know, there's two ways we can approach taking care of the stress hormones. One is to prevent the release of them. That's a whole nother subject. But as far as the calming down goes, Stephen Porges, who's a neurological researcher, stumbled on something years ago. He found that when you're with a person who is completely non-judgmental, they have a calming effect on you. And he found that the signals that calm you come from the area around their eyes, from the quality,
friendly,
the quality of their voice, and from touch or body language. You see, when you first see a new person, you're going to get stress hormones. Your amygdala is going to fire off. This could be an axe murderer. Who knows? So you see a new person, you're going to get stress hormones. The amygdala is saying, hey, look out, there's somebody new. You don't know if that person is safe enough. So it zaps you with stress hormones. Your immediate response is your heart rate goes up, your breathing rate goes up, you get tense, you get a little sweaty, and you feel a little bit of alarm. And then you take a look at them and you see, oh, this person looks okay. And that translates into activating your calming system. And so you say hello, and then you have a little bit more interaction with them, and you pick up some more good signals, and you calm down and feel comfortable. So what we want to do is look for a person who is a friend, an easygoing person who's not judgmental, preferably even someone who doesn't give you advice, because that kind of means that they are one up on you. Somebody who is just a buddy, who accepts you completely. That's the kind of person who gives you the best activation of the calming system.
Yeah.
Now, what we do in the SOAR program is we take those three areas where they signal you that you're safe with them, and we want to use their safety signals to connect them to being on the airplane, so that being on the airplane feels safe. So the exercise we do generally goes like this. You imagine you're with that person, and they have a photograph of an airplane situation. Let's say it's walking on the airplane, and you have them in your imagination hold that picture touching their cheek. So now you've got walking on the airplane, which you could say, hey, this is a dangerous situation, whether it is or not. Emotionally, you don't feel good about it. And yet you feel good about what you see on their face. So those things get connected. And then the second thing is say, okay, you hold a corner of the picture as your friend holds a corner of the picture. Talk about it. And it doesn't matter what you say. That's intellectual. What we're dealing with is emotional. So the quality of your friend's voice, it's not the words, it's the music. It's the quality of your friend's voice that has the safety signals that as you talk about this boarding the airplane, it begins to feel okay to board the airplane. And then as you're talking, they just put an arm around your waist and give you a hug. Now, that's just walking on the airplane. We want to also link to sitting down in the seat and the door closing and the engine starting and pushback and taxi out and take off and climb and cruise. And of course, turbulence and then coming in for landing. But, it's interesting that most people, once the plane starts down, they're starting to think, and in a few minutes, I'm going to be off the plane. And they're not so troubled by landing.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. Or you can actually bring your friend with you.
Yeah, you can, but it's
Person.
actually, you can. You actually can. That will help.
Yeah.
But you see, if you build them inside, they can be fighting off your anxieties before they build up enough to be a problem.
Perfect. Yeah. There's been a few times where I've had people, just really, really melt down. I'm writing the back or something deadheading, and I just knew too, okay, so if I look in my eyes, I'm holding them and telling them to breathe with me, and then start asking them questions, and just not stressful questions, easy questions,
Yeah.
pretending, to help distract them. And so that's been helpful.
Well, yeah,
And so,
it's not just the distraction, it's the quality of your voice, because you know they're safe.
right.
And the quality of your voice, it has safety signals, and that goes in at an unconscious level, and it's more effective emotionally than the fact that you're telling them that you're okay.
Right, and I guess the friendly eyes, right? So if you're showing, I really care, I'm really with you in this, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what can people do to best prepare, like, for their upcoming trip?
Well, I really think the best thing they could do is either get involved with one of our courses or get the copy of the SOAR book, because there's a lot of information and there's a lot of exercise that you need to set up. And when I do the course, I actually include a counseling session with every course to make sure that the person has the exercise set up right. So it needs to be set up right to be effective.
And that's so, I mean, that alone, the fact that, you're an expert in this and you're a counselor, Tom, and a captain, makes it really unique too. And of course, Lisa being great. So, again, anybody that is interested in really getting over their fear of flying, you can go to captainlaura.com to the SOAR link and go straight to Captain Tom's courses and get started right away. And then you can have a session with Captain Tom himself and Lisa. And I also know, what's great is you have a chat group on Wednesday nights, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that a little bit?
Wednesday night, yeah, we have a typed in chat from 9 until 11. I do the first hour, Lisa does the second hour. And then at 10 for an hour, I do a Zoom session, which is, well, you see, the typed in chat's kind of anonymous. So if you want to not be seen or heard, you have a lot of privacy in the typed in chat, but it's hard to get into detail. In the Zoom session, it's like what you see right here. You can talk, you can see each other. It's easy to communicate. So that's from 10 until 11 Eastern. And the way you find it is just to go to the fearofflying.com website and look across the top of the page for the heading Talk and Read. Because we're going to talk. So look in there, you'll see the chat.
And that's fantastic, because I'm sure that alone, really helps people. Just even if you just have, I was thinking about this the other day, when you have, you might take the courses and you feel great and strong, and, you take a few trips, and then, like now with the COVID situation, maybe people haven't flown for a year or two and they feel like, oh gosh, I need a refresher, so they can watch their courses again, read the book and re-engage, sign up for a counseling session, join the chats again, just to have that reaffirmation again, right? So,
but I would throw in that for a new person, almost everybody I talk to believes these things work for other people, they won't work for me.
Oh.
Almost everybody believes that.
Well, and I can tell you the people that I've sent, it totally worked for them. So that's fantastic. And matter of fact, I think we have a video showing one of your sessions with he's a CEO, Joe, that kind of just as an example.
Joe runs his own business. It's a business called Up and Away. Actually, it's
no kidding.
It's these buckets that you go up in to work on a tree or on a power line.
Oh.
And he rents those to construction companies and so on.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. And you can see some of your other sessions, I think, on YouTube. Is that right?
Joe, so
there we go.
I want to thank you for being willing to talk about your experiences with flying. So,
sure.
What would you like to share with people who are running into the same kind of problems that you ran into?
So the best thing I can say to someone is you have to take that leap of faith. One quote that I have shared with you in the past was, you'll never live if you're too afraid to die.
Yeah.
So I got to a point where I said, you know what, I'm being limited by not flying for over 10 years and the things I wanted. And I was in my mid-20s before I decided I needed to do something about not flying, and did a bunch of research on fear of flying, and of course found your website. That was about 10 years ago. And we talked originally. I did the program, the training. And then, as you know, my piece that helped a lot was getting to talk to you as a pilot and breaking down every single piece, as you know, of how the aircraft works and the backups and safety and all of that. So not only does the program work magically, but for a person like me who likes to know technical information, you being a retired pilot, obviously, is the icing on the cake.
You're into mechanical stuff with
Sure.
kind of
Yeah,
work.
And
so
I just want to
cars
know,
and snowmobiles and who
Right.
knows what.
can you
Right,
tell
right.
us
Anything
a
that
little
goes-
bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
Tell us exactly like how the courses work to really cure people.
Well, we start out with the information about how flying works, and Joe was talking about that. He really is into mechanics of it, so he had almost endless questions. I don't know how many hours we spent extra with Joe because he wanted to know everything that could go wrong, and he was doing research all over the net to finding about every accident that ever happened. I had to explain how it had been fixed, and so that was a big project. So he was unusual in that regard. Most people get satisfied about the safety of the plane a lot easier than Joe does. And then we deal with the question of, okay, now that you're satisfied that it's not perfectly safe, but it's safe enough to do. Now, this is a guy who gets on the snowmobile, goes 90 miles an hour. He's fine if he's in control, but it's different when you're not in control, you know? So now he has to find a way to feel safe when he's not in control. And so we looked for a person that he felt really comfortable with. We linked to that person's face, voice, and touch, linked it to being on the plane. Then we didn't talk about it yet, but the other thing we can do, and we also use the same exercise in a different way, is the linking exercise. To link to a memory of a time when you produce a hormone called oxytocin. When oxytocin is produced, it pretty much shuts down the fear system. Give you an example. The most oxytocin is produced when a mother nurses a child. Why? Why does nature want to shut down the fear system? Well, it's going to take quite a while to nurse the baby. What if halfway through the mom thinks, gee, I got so many things to do. I got to stop nursing and do those things. Well, then the baby wouldn't get its needs met. So what happens is, as the mom starts nursing, she starts to produce oxytocin. And she can have the thought, and it continues all during nursing. So she can have the thought that she has all these things she needs to do, but it's like, so what? And so the nursing gets to continue until the baby's satisfied. So there's one example. If a mother has nursed a child, I know she's going to get good results with fear of flying, because we can go back to remembering the nursing situation and link that to getting on the airplane, sitting down in the seat, door closing, taxi out, et cetera, et cetera. The other times that produce oxytocin, when you pick up a newborn child. I should say oxytocin does two things. It shuts down the fear system and it causes bonding. So when you pick up a newborn child, nature wants you to bond and feel protective of that child. So oxytocin is produced. Males get oxytocin at orgasm. Why? For bonding. This activity could cause a child, right? So nature has it figured out that the child's going to be better off if there's two people taking care of it rather than one. So nature causes males to have a blast of oxytocin to feel bonded to their sexual partner. And as you know, we fall asleep and you get annoyed at us. So if women knew that nature is really trying to do something their interest here by causing the guy to have oxytocin, feel so relaxed to go to sleep, that's actually nature's way of trying to get the guy to stick around. Females, I'm not sure it's such a nice argument, because what happens with females is nature wants us to reproduce. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to be with the right person. So when the sexual chemistry is there, females produce oxytocin that causes the fear of getting physically close to go away. Then also dogs. Dogs seem to know how to look at us just like the ideal lover, like you're the only person in my life and I'm totally devoted to you. So when dogs interact with us, we produce oxytocin. One last one is if you get a hug for 20 or 30 seconds, a solid hug, that also produces oxytocin. So any or all of those, depending on what experiences you've had, could be linked to being on the plane. So that, and actually, you see, if you got oxytocin in real life, you probably would get enough to keep your fear system shut down for half an hour. But we're not going to get that much through a memory. So I aim for trying to produce oxytocin every 5 minutes or so during the flight.
And then people think of these things with these close bonding moments, and then they feel that?
It actually doesn't come consciously to mind. We set up the links in the exercise. You do the exercise a few times over a period of days. And they get stored in a part of the brain called unconscious procedural memory. That actually is the part of the brain that you use to drive a car while you're having a conversation with someone.
Right. So it's
kind
automatic.
of on autopilot. Yeah. So we want you to just produce oxytocin automatically throughout the flight, every few minutes. And we want you to also have these things that happen on the airplane elicit a little bit of the memory, unconsciously probably, of being with the person who's calming to you. So it's a double-barreled approach. Either one of them will take care of you, but we do both so you can't miss.
That's great, because then it depends on, how the people, there's, you have a whole toolkit of what's best for the people, right? And I will just admit right here on live TV that, so I have a thing about the huge roaches. So having gone to school in Florida, some of those palmetto bugs that are this big, and then they just dive bomb you, and, it's just blah. So for me, I have to not, I have to go through these steps too of like, okay, it's just a roach. It's not going to kill you. It's fine. And then take the steps to try to eliminate it. So that's, but, I can fly a jet around the world and with weather and issues and hundreds of people on board just fine. But those little roaches really flip me out. Yeah, exactly. That too. So is there anything else that you would like to share with the viewers?
Well, to come to mind, the other book, the Panic Free book, is that, we look so much in general about stress, about how to avoid it. But there are a lot of people who thrive on stress. Why?
Yeah, right.
Because their calming system kicks in really nicely. And so one of the things we do both in the Fear of Flying book and the Fear of Flying, of course, and the Panic book is make sure that we set it up so that your calming system kicks in these situations, but also throw this in. What about situations you can't plan ahead for?
Right.
We also want simply getting revved up to be a trigger for calming down.
So,
Laura, the first thing to kind of introduce this, one of the most difficult emergencies pilots have is a fire on takeoff. And
definitely.
The first thing you do is what?
Got to silence the fireball.
Exactly. Because when your amygdala fires off, it causes alarm, and that is so loud emotionally that you can't think clearly.
Right.
And on the airplane, when the alarm bell goes off because of your engine fire, you can't think clearly. You can't talk to the other pilot. The first thing you do is you want to get rid of that alarm. You push the button. Now, it's in a way, it's interesting because this is a serious emergency. The first thing you do is, let's just get rid of the noise.
Right.
But that's exactly the way we need to wire ourselves up. Let's say you have a situation that happens that alarms you. The first thing you need to do to be able to deal with it
silence the bell.
Silence the bell.
That was the only thing that I was concerned about. for my entire job interview series, right? For the major airline, it was, first we had the big long interview. Mine was like an hour and 15 minutes with a panel of 6 people. And then, of course, we had the simulator session testing, and then also, of course, our medical testing. And so I'm like, oh, I got this. That was the one thing, that 5th approach, ILS approach with the fire bell on. So I practiced a lot ahead of time, just trying to focus and think while I was having these blaring noises going, because I knew that was coming my way, and I wasn't going to be able to silence the bell in my job interview. So they wanted to see if you're going to fall apart or stay the course there. So yeah, that's interesting. So
Laura, did you happen to interview at Delta? Do you know the story about this? I don't know if I think they've changed it, but you used to have to interview with a psychiatrist among the people.
Well, I think United had that too for a while.
Well, this particular psychiatrist, in his room, when you came in to be interviewed, there was a rocking chair, and you sat in the rocking chair.
Oh.
And there was this thing that went on for years on the pilot forums. What are you supposed to do in the rocking chair in front of the psychiatrist? If you sit still, does that mean you're inhibited? If you rock continuously, does that mean you're nervous? If you rock intermittently, someone finally asked him, and he says, "Oh, it's just something my wife didn't like in the house, so she told me to take it to the office."
And they thought it was this whole psychology aspect.
Yes.
That's great. Well, we want to thank you so much, Tom, for being with us. I mean, you and I have been in the media together for years, and I always would love hearing people that I've sent to your courses, and they're like, yay, now I get to go to all these family events and, these big, huge business meetings and things. And just, they feel so confident and comfortable flying now. So it's just fantastic what you and Lisa do there at SOAR. And, for everybody, if you found this informative, please click on the like. And you can also share with friends, family, and coworkers. Like we said, the interviews are available on CaptainLaura.com under the Travel Like a Pro tab. And like we said, you can also click right underneath there to link directly to the Fear of Flying courses with SOAR. And also, if you have any questions, you can contact us, and through both of the websites, CaptainLaura.com and also fearofflying.com. And so we just want to thank everyone so much for being on board with us, and please join us for our next adventure. And until then, wishing you blue skies and smooth rides. Thank you.